Good evening, Tri-Valley. It's 7:04 PM, and I'm going to call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have two people signed in to speak. And where is... Okay, we have two people signed in to meet, and I just want to ask everyone just to be cordial and keep it to under 5 minutes. Thank you. Correspondence? We have no correspondence. Okay, public comment for items that are on tonight's agenda. Nothing. All right, budget presentation, Mr. Whitaker.
Okay, thank you. How's everybody doing this evening? I'm going to mix this up a little bit because I have a method to my madness. The first thing I want to go over is this year's tax cap calculation. Okay. If we can recall, about a year ago, I had an anomaly take place where my increase in building aid was a one-year event that caused us to have a negative tax cap. Wasn't a big deal. But this year, the anomaly is swinging the other direction. And I'm going to not really get into the nuts and bolts of this yet because I want to show you the next slide. But the bottom line is, after our tax cap is calculated, and these numbers are given to us by the state, our actual debt expense versus our actual building aid. And you can see last year our building aid was $1.452 million. This year, it's 1.074. Last year was the first year of the 2016 building project that we received state aid. This year, the 2004 or 5 was the last year. Last year happened to be the last year also. And we'll get into that a little more. But as we do the calculation, we have the authority to tax without using a supermajority of a 3.57% tax levy increase this coming year, or a grand total of $748,000 more tax dollars. That's a calculation. That's not what we're doing. We haven't really discussed and gone into that, but that's a calculation that I'm required to do every year and submit by the end of February. So for those of you who not quite understand what a supermajority is, if we wanted to raise taxes $748,730, $1 more, you need to get 60% of your voters. If we do 748, 729, or any amount less, one more vote yes than one more vote no. And that's state statute. But that having been said, we are in a planning mode. If you look at our debt, look at our building aid, it all affects our tax cap. If you look at these buildings, the difference between year to year of what our debt expense is. Oh, come on. What'd I do, Aaron? I wanted to get to the top of that. I probably erased it. Sorry for my ineptitude. Ah, there we go. No, I'm good. Okay, back to square one. Okay, so the big event for us is not next school year, but the year after. We have a drop in debt of almost $900,000. That's a wonderful thing in our personal life. It's a wonderful thing when people lose debt. Not such a great deal in the school world. Every year in our budget, there's a line item that represents our debt and debt expense. It's part of the budget. Let's just say for ha-has that I decide to knock that year's budget down by $900,000. Great thing. Probably lower taxes, do a bunch of other things. But with that, my tax cap would be projected to be a negative 3.15, which means I'm mandated to lose that much taxing authority. So we're playing both ends of the fence here. Great idea to lose your debt, but I can't tax people. The reason I bring this up, and if you look at this, last year was our negative tax cap. This year it went up. When this number is positive, building aid versus debt, we are going to have a negative tax cap. It's not a bad thing, but we have to work on planning. Our budget numbers there, revenue, when revenue decreases, we have to find some way to make it up or cut the budget. So this line item here will not change. That's our debt. We have no debt planned in the next couple of years. That's why this decision is extremely important this year for the administration and the Board of Education, as we're planning not for so much for 2023, but for 23 and 24 beyond. This current building project, depending upon when it finishes, it usually takes about 12 to 18 months before you get your final cost reports in, before the state recognizes them, before they'll agree to give you state aid. I'm speculating that in 24, 25, our building aid would go back up, which hopefully then will alleviate some of our tax cap issues. With that having been said, one of the things that we have discussed is, and you'll see it in the capital, in the line item, principal, interest, transfer to capital fund. I'm not sure how many years ago, but this district at one point in time had passed a resolution to fund a capital reserve based upon making a contribution every year for 10 years out of the general fund. So a line item was created in the general fund budget. Every year, that amount of money went into the capital reserve fund. What Dr. Silver and I, the audit committee and the board, we're talking about having another capital fund, capital reserve fund resolution on this year's board vote, to establish a new capital reserve fund that it will be good for 10 years. Not quite sure the number yet, but we're looking at maybe putting $500,000 a year in. My debt expense line will go down, but that transfer to the capital fund will make my budget, stabilize my budget number, hopefully offsetting some tax cap issues coming down the road. Our taxpayers have been very great to us. We want to thank them, but sometimes we got to look at things. And the reason this number is so important this year, if we stayed at zero, if we just stayed at the same rate, within 3 years, we've lost almost $2 million in taxing authority. Every other expense goes up. That would be A little tough to figure out, but we would do it. So this number here this year is up for discussion. We don't want to ask our taxpayers for money, but we have to decide where do we, this is the benchmark number next year. That will be our benchmark. So the planning is there, the conversations have started. We have a few alternate ideas, but this is very important as we look moving forward. The board and Dr. Silver and I and administration will have some serious discussions in the near future. The sad part with this tax cap, even at zero, doesn't mean that people's taxes couldn't go up. The wonderful world of taxing, we don't know what tax rates, assessment rates, and everything are until about August 15th. So whatever we think our percentage is not always true for each taxpayer because we have 6 different districts here, 6 different areas that get taxed. So, you know, sometimes it pays not to be in such great financial shape. Sometimes it doesn't. But I think this is just something I want to make the board aware of. We've had preliminary discussions, and we've got to figure out a way to address this, come up with a plan, not a 1-year plan, not a 3-year plan, but at least we'll have 1, 3, but a 5-year plan, and move forward. Any questions on this? Okie dokie. That was the fun part of the presentation. Okay, for the capital component. Come on, Betsy. What is the capital component made up of? In layman's terms, it's basically the envelope of our district. The operations of the plant, the maintenance of the plant, some special items, employees' benefits, and debt service. That's related back to everything else we spoke about. Come on. Aaron, I need a magic finger. So I got the proposal for this year's capital component is a little over $4.3 million. It represents a decrease of $20,000. That decrease is basically, whoops, grab this one. Last year when we were creating this budget, we had no idea what the new bond that we got July 1st was going to be. Probably a little ultra-conservative on my part on what it was going to be, but it was based on bond counsel. Going out to bid, we were very lucky when we went out to bid. We got extremely good rates. So there was quite a reduction in our debt service that I had initially proposed for last year. There are no personnel changes here this year. Fuel bid is based on 7.5%. I actually thought by now the fuel bid would have been out and bid, but everything's a little volatile out there. The people that we deal with that go out on the fuel bid are anticipating putting it out probably in the first 2 weeks in March. Employees' benefits, because of the change with a couple of employees that retired and some new ones, we have a little different mix. But again, that's based on a 17.5% increase in rates on January 1st of 2023. There are some trending analysis looking at operations and maintenance. Maintenance in particular, some more expenses, but again, one of the nice things about this in operations is energy performance contract. We expect to spend about 7% less on electricity next year. And the scary part, I can't remember if I mentioned this before. I think it was just before Christmas. 5 years ago, 20 parts per billion lead. State came out, mandated 15 parts per billion. You had to do a lot of testing. We had to do some remediation. was not a big chore for us to get there, and this is in New York State public schools only, this new level. Well, the governor came in, and can't believe I haven't heard a ton about it, but said it's down to 5%, 5 parts per billion. That's a huge decrease. We're watching to see if this will actually be enacted. There are some additional monies in this budget based upon that. It's a scary thought because nobody sees the pipes where the water runs through here. That's really scary because we have to get in and do a lot of remediation. Could be a very costly thing. So we're keeping our eye on that. And Dr. Silver's favorite thing, the 3-part budget, but the capital component has a decrease of 0.47%. And the administrative component is coming right now. Any questions on the capital component?
No.
Okay. The administrative component. We talked about the envelope of the building. Now we have to manage the building. We have to manage the district. Costs include the Board of Education, central administration, finance, staffing, printing, all how we get everything working here and we manage things. Supervision of schools, which is basically all the administrators that are sitting here tonight, and employee benefits. Yeah. Okay, the proposal for this year, as it stands right now, is a little over $3.5 million, an $86,000 increase, about 2.49%. This component is the one right now that has a lot of variables in it, and we'll go over some of them. There are a lot of BOCES cost decreases. Not that they lowered their prices. Last year, there was a roofing project surcharge that came down a little bit, so that's some savings on the BOCES administrative level. In the personnel area, we're conducting more of our recruitment, more of our personnel things through our business office, so there's a savings there. Also in the curriculum area, we're utilizing some resources directly and going through grants, lowering some of our BOCES expense there. Some of the increases, salaries and benefits. Last year, TVAA hadn't had their contract ratified yet, so that's been finalized. This year, confidential management needs to be ratified. Grant monies have yet to be finalized, and there's an additional 1.0 FTE in the business office. This will be offset by moving some of the business office expense from the A fund to the cafeteria fund, where a lot of the work is taking place. The supervision of regular schools is down. How the heck did that happen? Looking at trend analysis and looking at the 400 and 450 codes, which are the contractual and supplies and materials over the past 5 years, we see the decrease. We're going to hold my administrators to some of that. Professional development costs. Again, looking at the way the money is actually spent, a lot of it doesn't come out of the general fund. And to the credit of administration here, we're going through using grants more often, and we've been able to look at a decrease there. Again, health insurance, an increase of 17.5% planned. So overall, it's an increase of 2.49%. The one thing that's not taken into account here yet is when I said grant monies. There are, in this particular component, about $200,000 potential of grant money, not the just go print it in the corner money, but the standard Title I, Title II, the title grants that are pretty consistent. So we're looking at when I enact those. This is the first shot at this component, and it will become more finalized as we move into March. Well, and again, the administrative component, 2.49%. That wasn't me, I thought. Next board meeting, we get to the nuts and bolts and where all the money is. The program component, what we actually do here every day. The teachers, the students, the staffing, and all the programs associated with them. And that usually makes up 75 to 78% of the budget. Any questions?
Sounds awesome.
Thank you so much.
Next up, we have the superintendent's report.
Let me get closer to the microphone. So I have a few things. First of all, just want to report that our attendance has improved vastly over the last month or so. We're up to about 90% in both schools all this week. We had, if I go back to January 18th, it's sort of a benchmark. That was our low point. We had 115 kids out and 16 staff out, 9 with COVID. By January 28th, we were down to 37 kids and 6 staff, 3 with COVID. And by February 1st, there were only 12 kids out and 3 staff. So, and that's pretty much where we've stayed over the last 2 weeks. So our attendance has gone from 78% back in January to over 90% yesterday, actually. So that's a really good sign. It kind of mirrors the drop in COVID in the county. The county is still fairly high relative to the New York City and other places. We're in a lot better place than we were just a few weeks ago. So that is good news. Under new business is the academic calendar. I'm mentioning it now just so we don't forget later. The last meeting we presented it to you. What we've done is add 2 half-days. Since then, I just wanted to point that out. One in November, which is the All-State, music All-State that occurs here. So it's a lot easier if we get our kids out of the building, and then kids from all around the county show up at 1 o'clock. Our kids go out at 12 o'clock. It just makes it a lot simpler, and it gives them places to practice and do things like that. And the budget vote for next year, that election day, we also made that back into a half-day, which is historical. And I would just ask the board whether they wanted to make this year's budget vote and election day a half-day as well.
Was that a question?
Yes, sort of a question.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
I'm in agreement.
Thank you. The other question, the calendaring question I have, BOCES made a mistake when they scheduled their annual budget and board election. They missed a part of the statute, so they need to move that vote from April 12th to April, I wrote down 14th, but that doesn't sound, oh yeah, to the 14th. So the question is whether we want to leave no, I'm sorry, let me back up. Scheduled for the 12th, they need to move it to the 26th. We already have a meeting date scheduled for the 26th. The question is whether we want to move the 12th, which is a Tuesday, back to our regular Thursday meeting on the 14th, or leave it on the 12th. Did that make any sense?
Kind of.
Okay, let me try again. We have meetings scheduled on Thursdays through April and May. On Tuesdays through April and May because of votes. So the meeting on the 12th was supposed to be for the BOCES budget plus our regular meeting. They had to move that vote to the 26th, 2 weeks later. We had that meeting scheduled already, so that would leave us three Tuesday meetings that we had to have, in the last one in April and the 2 in May. The first one, the 12th, do we want to leave it still on Tuesday or move it to our regular Thursday? Because that's how we can do that if you want.
Doesn't really matter. What is your suggestion?
We could leave it on Tuesday because it's on the calendar and everyone expects it to be that way, if that works.
So then, that's what we should do.
Okay,
I'm sorry, can I leave any on the 12th?
I'm sorry?
Leave it on the 12th?
Leave it on the 12th. Along with the attendance issues, we watch the news and questions about masks and non-masks and option, whether optional or mandated. The school mandate ends on the 21st. We don't know what the governor's going to do. We expect to hear something tomorrow or Monday, because why not wait to the last minute if you can? And so NYSUD and other school organizations have requested that there be some metrics put together and good lead time to what the governor is going to, and the Department of Health is going to suggest. I don't know where any of this is going. I think this is going to be as much a surprise as anyone else. When you look around, speculation is she's going to follow New Jersey's lead. And they've made it they've made it optional, starting, I think, March 1st. So we will wait and see what happens. I'll report to you as soon as we know something about what's going on with masks. And the other sort of piece of news that you probably didn't pay any attention to is the state had filed with the U.S. Department of Education for a waiver from the accountability pieces in the federal legislation, No Child Left Behind, which is, that's not what it's called anymore. Every student success, yeah, the ESSA. And the feds denied the state's request for a waiver. So the accountability pieces will be in place. So the testing we do this spring will make a difference on whether we have to comply with further oversight from the state and all those other kinds of fun things. So that's where we are. And I think that is it, unless anyone has any questions.
Anyone have any questions? No?
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Are there any items that the board wants pulled from tonight's agenda? No? Okay. I need a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda. Motion Aaron, second Keith. Please proceed to vote. Oh, all right, I'll do that after. That was unanimous. Thank you. So since I skipped it, we have 3 speakers that signed in for items that are not on tonight's agenda.
If it's not on, then it comes in the second half.
Alrighty then.
I'm sorry, I just
Okay.
didn't know whether it was.
All right. Scratch that, Norma. We have any board committee reports? We don't? No. We have no board committee reports? Old business? We have no old business. Okay, public comment session for items that are not on tonight's agenda. Justine Scully?
So this is sort of a follow-up as to my questions when we were in person last meeting. It was brought to my attention that some students had accessed a teacher's social media site, and on the site there were some shocking images and pictures, shocking to me and to the students. it's my understanding that there's currently no policy in place to address the social media accounts for people employed with the school. So I'm requesting that the board work to create a policy that provides specific guidelines for the social media accounts of employees in respect to appropriate conduct on social media. And I want to be clear that I understand that there are and I know that there are so many wonderful teachers, staff, and administrators who are exemplary role models for our children and who may use these sites. But I just feel that it's important that as technology advances so rapidly, that we need to also conform with our policies to protect our kids. So that's what I'm asking of you tonight. And the second issue is I just wanted to follow up on the $350,000 governor's budget. Dr. Silver had mentioned that there were ethical changes attached to that. So is there a way to get information on those changes and what they are, what they look like?
Yeah,
Okay,
I should be able to.
okay,
I'm not sure what exactly you're asking for, but I'll touch base with you.
okay. You'll get that from
Yeah.
me? Yeah. We can talk about that otherwise. I want to know what that is.
Oh, I
I'm
know what
not-
I know what
don't
you're
see-
talking about. I got it.
Okay. Okay.
That's it?
That's it. And moving forward, I just want to know what a deadline would look like, how you'll be working on that, what we can expect, what I can expect going
Well-
forward as far as working on those changes and those policies.
We'll take a look at, I'm on the policy committee, so is Erin, and Brent is also is Randy. So, okay. So the three of us are here. We heard you.
Okay.
We'll look at the policy, we'll discuss it. We'll see
Okay.
what's on the books and what other school districts are doing. And we'll address it.
Okay. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Matthew Tierney.
Hi, I just want to thank you guys for the meeting we had the other day about the search for the superintendents. I appreciate the board doing that and opening that up to the public. My question tonight is about the upcoming school board election. Just wanted to know a little more of the process, and I want to make sure that we're going to have an in-person voting this year as opposed to mailing and voting. And if we can get whatever the procedures are in writing, it's coming up pretty soon, so. Okay.
Sure. Norma handles all of that.
What's that?
Norma handles all of
Okay.
the school board election
All right.
information.
Does it look like we're going to have an in-person like in the past?
I don't see why it would be 100% mail-in, so.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yep. Next up, we have Lorraine Klein.
Hello, thank you. So, this might be a little ambiguous, but I'm not alone. There are a lot of people who are concerned, and we just kind of want our fears put to rest. So, you guys have an upcoming health screening as mandated by the New York State, and the screening is on vision, hearing, and scoliosis, which I know you've done before. However, knowing that there's been a lot of crazy things going on in our world. For instance, this school itself posted a survey regarding whether there should be COVID-19 vaccination clinic for 5 to 11-year-olds. And in the January 21st guidepost, superintendent's message in the guidepost, which I printed out, it's kind of ambiguous how we're handling the vaccinated and the unvaccinated students. And I'll just read what it says here, among other things. In the superintendent's message, this is January 21st guidepost. If your child is asymptomatic and is fully vaccinated and boosted, or fully vaccinated and not eligible for a booster shot, they are not quarantined or restricted for school busing and extracurricular and after-school activities. Boy, this would help. Anyway, if your child is asymptomatic and is fully vaccinated and eligible for a booster shot, but has not yet gotten it, they can attend school and ride the bus, but may not participate in after-school activities. And this one applies to my family. If your child is not fully vaccinated, they must quarantine for 5 days, no matter what. My kids have missed a lot of school this year because of quarantine. As a matter of fact, we missed the first 3 days of school, which were huge, because Ulster County, I happen to live in Ulster County, I'm one of those outside outliers that you were talking about that are extra taxed, by the way. I guess what I want to say is, besides the fact that this policy has no basis in fact about the unvaccinated spreading COVID any faster than the vaccinated, absolutely no proof of that. Singling out students is not, is discriminatory and stigmatizing to the unvaccinated students, including my children, who feel it all the time, by the way. This certainly doesn't sound like the inclusive atmosphere that Tri-Valley prides itself in. Additionally, one of my concerns, and not mine alone, believe me, there are just people who don't want to touch this subject and are not here tonight, but I know people, obviously, other moms and parents, families. So, New York State bill introduced by Senator Liz Krueger that would allow teens aged 14 and older to receive vaccines required or recommended by law without their parents' permission. So this bill is currently in committee, for any of you who don't know about it. And I guess my question is, how can parents in this school district be assured that Tri-Valley isn't currently coercing, pressuring, persuading, or shaming students into being vaccinated and using the health screening, such as the one coming up, as a means to officially do so?
That's a good question. Dr. Silver, would you like to?
Well, because we're not. I mean, that's the simple answer. And what you quoted out of the guidepost is the guidance that we received directly from the State
No,
Department
I
of Health.
understand that. I'm not being accusatory at all.
No, I understand it, but that's where that comes
I'm simply,
from.
because there's so much fear out there. And honestly, a couple years ago, you know, I got a lot of kids. I have 5 kids. My oldest 2 graduated already. When a thing came up talking about health screenings and all this, I was like, yeah, so of course. But now, I don't know who this person is coming in who's doing the health screenings, and it puts fear in me, especially that, you know, that they might try to, again, fear my child into doing something that they don't really want to do, or they don't feel comfortable with.
Well, and we wouldn't tolerate that, but the people
Okay.
doing this health screenings are our nurses. It's not somebody coming in to do that.
Okay, all right, just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
So we can say, no push the kids that
Not-
don't want it,
Not
or
that,
the
Correct.
that
family.
we're aware of, no.
Correct.
Okay, thank you so much, I appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you guys for speaking. Appreciate it. Next up, we have announcements and upcoming events. Jen, since you're sitting on the end seat, I'll pick you first. Please.
We didn't need the extra parts. Good evening, everyone. So the elementary school today celebrated their 100th day of school. And as part of the tradition, a lot of our students, including our faculty and staff, dress up as 100-year-olds, senior citizens. And I can tell you that it was, as usual, adorable to watch some of the eyeliner be used in other ways other than eyeliner. Students had wrinkles drawn on them. We saw lots of canes and a lot of silver hair on some of our 5-year-olds. They certainly enjoyed the day, and we thank everyone for participating. In addition to our 100th day today, we celebrated a random act of kindness day as well. And we were certainly encouraging any time that we saw students who were going above and beyond to support their classmates, whether it was picking up something that fell down or just simply holding a door open. So it was an all-around celebratory day for us, including lots of learning. We have marking period three already. The interim progress report, so that means 5 weeks, will be coming to a close shortly. And I do have to put in a little plug for our Bear Cub basketball. Bear Cub basketball for our elementary students has started. It is amazing to see the camaraderie that's already taking place between the students. They are really excited to be able to be playing with each other. The first games, I believe, start next week. But as you're seeing in our meetings, you'll see some of our elementary students going by because they're likely in one of the gymnasiums practicing with each other. And finally, we do have an upcoming Spirit Week that will be sponsored by our student council, and that some more information on what that will look like in our building will be forthcoming. So thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
I'm very proud to announce the class of 2022 valedictorian salutatorian. Robert Denman is the valedictorian for the class of 2022, and Ben Smith is the salutatorian for the class of 2022. In about 2 weeks, we'll release ranks 3 through 10. I'm very happy for our seniors. We're really trying to give them an experience as they're going out the door. We're looking at doing a senior trip possibly, and if that's not possible, to do some day trips. You know, one of the saddest things I think with COVID is that in many of the students' lives, school has taken a back seat, and they don't have the same joy and look forward to the same things day to day. That being said, we're working very hard to put things back into the calendar. For instance, next Friday night is a high school dance, and then we are bringing back Color Wars for the 7th and 8th grade on the 18th of March, and competition night on the 25th of March. And right now we have plans for prom May 14th at the Cartwright. Dr. Silver, did you want me to mention anything about the individuals?
Go ahead.
We received notification today. If you remember back in December, we had 2 instances where there were very inappropriate social media sites on Instagram that targeted and maliciously called out some of our students. I'm very pleased to say, due to the work on the part of not only the school, but with Officer Koshetsky, who's our SRO, and the district attorney, it was delivered to me today via a grand jury subpoena, the information of those individuals who were responsible. We plan on certainly within our code of conduct and within prevailing law, addressing those students, but also reassuring our community that we will not tolerate this type of behavior. I'm very thankful to the DA for taking it to the grand jury for us. So thank you.
Great, thanks.
Good evening, everyone. I have just a couple of things. I want to mention regarding the budget vote date. We're all going along with the idea that it is in person because we have a fine and industrial arts show in the works, as we have in the past. So that's our art department, our technology department, FFA, just all of our special kind of groups that are working towards that. So that's in the plans. And also in the plans, we're planning for our summer program for this year, which we plan to have again as we have in the past. Thanks.
Awesome. Did you hear that, Ms. Tierney? Excellent.
So I just wanted to give a shout out to Mr. Denman's construction class and congratulate all of the students that helped create the benches that were available down at the Grahamsville Fairgrounds for the first annual Winterfest. The festival was wonderful, and I know everybody really appreciated the benches that were created.
Thank you, Danny. Okay, next up, we have Under new business, we have the adoption of the 2022-2023 academic calendar. Be it resolved that the board reviewed and adopts the 2022-2023 academic calendar as attached to the public portion of the agenda. I need a motion. Motion Danielle, second Keith. Please proceed to vote. Unanimous? That was unanimous. Thank you, Norma. Next up, we have the transportation agreement. Be it resolved, the board approves a transportation agreement for an individual student for the time period January 31st, 2022, terminating June 30th, 2022. I need a motion. Motion Aaron, second Keith. Please proceed to vote. That was unanimous. Thank you, Norma. Next up, we have annual legal notice, transportation requests to non-public schools. Be it resolved, the board approves the following annual resolution. Parents of non-public students, the Tri-Valley Central School District, in accordance with Section 3635-2 of the Education Law, requires that requests for transportation to a non-public school for the 2022-2023 school year be submitted in writing prior to April 1st, 2022. Tri-Valley residents should submit their request to the school district clerk. I need a motion. Motion Danielle, second Keith. Please proceed to vote. That was unanimous. Thank you, Norma. Next up, we have a proposal for development of food service management company bid specifications. Be it resolved, the board approves the proposal for development of food service management company bid specifications submitted by HMB Consultants as attached to the public portion of the agenda. I need a motion. Motion Rose, second Keith. Please proceed to vote. That's unanimous. Thank you, Norma. That concludes the meeting. We're not going to be having any executive session this evening. So thank you all. Have a great night.